Welcome to December 12th, Cabrillo Unified School District Governing Board meeting. Roll call, please. Here. Here.
Lizette Cortez.
Here.
Mary Beth Alexander.
Here.
Sophia Lane.
Here.
Jamie Blake.
Here.
Bill. Martin Juarez.
Here.
Thank you. Jamie, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
To the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This brings us to recognition and reception. We have, we've got two people here tonight, Elise Lester and Mike O'Neill. So Elise, do you want to go first?
There we go. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Elise Lester, and I'm honored to be here tonight on behalf of Assemblymember Mark Berman to recognize Board President Kimberly Hines and Board Member Sophia Lane for their remarkable years of service to the Cabrillo Unified School District. Your leadership and steadfast dedication have greatly contributed to the success and well-being of students, families, and staff throughout this community. Your thoughtful approach and commitment to creating opportunities for all have made a lasting impact. On behalf of Assemblymember Mark Berman, State Senator Josh Becker, and the entire California State Legislature, it is my privilege to present these joint resolutions in gratitude for your service. Thank you for all you have done to shape and support this district. Awesome. Perfect. Oh, yeah. No, it's a mock-up because it's in the mail.
The photo op. You're check. Okay, you're doing okay.
Yeah, well, finally done.
So, Kimberly, I guess you called my name, so it's my turn now? Okay. I don't want to step in front. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming today to honor Kimberly and Sophia. My name is Mike O'Neill. I work for Supervisor Ray Mueller of the 3rd Supervisory District here in San Mateo County. And he wants me to come and talk to you about the service. I mean, some of you might know, I served on the school board in Pacifica for 14 years. So I know the highlights, the low points, the challenges, and the fun stuff. I mean, read aloud day in, first grade with the kids reading a book, it's great. But then you have challenges such as this district and Pacifica does of managing a school district on a shoestring budget of, meeting legitimate issues with teachers' unions, trying to maintain buildings, trying to provide a robust education and program. It's a challenge that a lot of people enter the school board with all jet black hair and leave with gray, okay? And it is a challenging thing, and especially in 2020 with the pandemic. But there's a quote from Emerson that I think exemplifies somebody in a school board. And it says, "Is to laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate the beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy or educated child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition. To know even one life or one child has breathed easier because you have served on a school board. That is to have succeeded." And I know with the programs both of you started, the efforts you've done in curriculum and safety and everything else that you do, you have succeeded. So congratulations from Ray Mueller. And we actually have the certificate. I gotta admit, I panicked for Lisa when I saw the one.
So I'm going to acknowledge that someone brought us refreshments as well. So let's take 10 minutes, grab a cup of coffee, and then we'll resume. Thanks.
Is it on now? Okay. I'm a parent at Hatch, and I was here in the fall when Hatch faced many vacancies at the start of the year, and I was asking for district support for the school. Here I am again with Hatch having yet another principal vacancy. I have a 5th grader and a 1st grader at Hatch, and when I look back at my 5th graders' elementary school years, I can count 5 principals and 5 vice principals from kindergarten through 5th grade. Hatch is bigger than all 3 elementary schools combined, and the 2nd largest school in the district. This turnover and lack of consistency adversely affects the students and teachers at Hatch. The Hatch community deserves better. The district needs to look in the mirror to see whether they are doing all that they can to do to support the administration at Hatch. Hatch has a number of new teachers this year. Have they been trained on the new curriculum? Given its size alone, for the district to succeed, Hatch must succeed. Bringing consistency to the administration at Hatch must be a priority.
Kendra Holland.
Hi, I am Kendra Holland, and I am an exhausted CUSD parent. I have 2 children. Harry is a 7th grader here at Cunha, and his younger sister, Cricket, is now a 5th grader at Hatch Elementary. After the latest Hatch Elementary School administration resignation, I was told not to worry, that kids are resilient. Cricket and her classmates have been resilient. They were resilient when they were sent home to finish kindergarten and start 1st grade through remote learning. They were resilient when they remained at home, as CUSD was one of the last schools in San Mateo County to return to in-person learning. They have been resilient through long-term subs assigned in kindergarten, 2nd grade, and now 5th grade. They have been resilient through 5 elementary principals, 5 assistant principals, 3 long-term subs, and 3 superintendents in the last 6 months. How much longer are our children going to endure the consequences of adult decisions and mistakes? It would be easy to say that this is a special or unique Hatch Elementary School problem, but I would argue it may be a unique problem because we have a unique student population. Hatch is the largest CUSD school next to the high school and has more students than the remaining 3 elementary school sites combined. With that large population, it's a diverse population, creating a giant range of student needs. I don't mean to speak for the entire school site, but it's my understanding that very few faculty, staff, and families feel supported at the district level, neither by district staff or by the governing board. We desperately need interventions, but when we think of creative ways to use the teachers already on campus, it gets shut down. We have a gorgeous green space that could be a safe place for students who need active play, but we were told for years that it was unsafe. There's example after example of efforts made and shut down. It's my hope that we will use this opportunity to find real committed leadership, because with all the inconsistency and unpredictability, I don't know if we're making our kids stronger, but I do feel like we're screwing them over. Thank you.
Thank you, Kendra. We do have one more public comment, but it is for the consent agenda, so I'll reserve that till later. Employee Organizations Report, CUTA.
Good evening. With all the holiday feelings in the air, CUTA would like to express its gratitude for a number of different things. We're thankful we work in a situation where we can bargain with the district. We are thankful that we can have dialogue about concerns that we have at the district level. We are grateful that we are empowered to have a say about how things are run at our schools, and that we have the autonomy of doing what we think is best to educate our students. This month, we have a number of activities that encourage school spirit as well as student engagement. Of course, next week is finals, where our students have the opportunity to demonstrate their mastery of their subject. And our community has overwhelmingly supported our school district by passing the parcel tax and the bond. We look forward to starting the new year, continuing to work together to address teacher retention, safety issues, and to improve our facilities throughout the district. Thank you, and happy holidays.
CSEA. Board member reports. Sophia, would you like to go first?
All right, I'm with Mr. Carey. It's 'tis the season. I love your tie, by the way, and your jingles. It is the season, similarly, I feel the same way, for gratitude and for renewal. And I could not be more grateful for the privilege of having served our students in our school community over the past 8 years. During this time, we've significantly expanded early childhood education to lift up students otherwise starting school at a disadvantage. We've implemented first-ever standards-based curricula and professional development across key subject areas, including language arts and mathematics, ensuring alignment and access to quality materials and instruction for all students. We've launched college dual enrollment to increase students' access to post-secondary education. We've received a U.S. Green Ribbon Award for our environmental sustainability curricula and operational improvements. We've improved facilities, including rebuilding our 3 largest elementary schools, a major building at our middle school, and infrastructure from HVAC to roofing across all of our campuses. We've passed 2 parcel tax and 2 bond measures for critical funding support. Thank you to the support of coast-side voters. We've initiated implementation of restorative practices to stem the school-to-prison pipeline. We've navigated the impacts of a global pandemic and its ongoing aftermath, as well as chronic underfunding and advocating for change. And we've developed our first ever student-focused strategic plan to bring all this work together and focus our resources accordingly. Personally, I have also served as a delegate of the California School Boards Association and as a member of their legislative committee, as well as my ongoing service as president of the San Mateo County School Boards Association. Both of these roles have been integral in expanding my understanding and network pertaining to public education policy and helping to put Cabrillo Unified on the map, increasing our voice on topics from school funding to safety at the county and state levels. These are critical components for getting the outside support we need for progress here on the coast side. Yet we still have so far to go. We can and must continue to strengthen our academic foundations for all of our students and refine our targeted holistic supports where needed. With a graduation rate of 85%, that means we're failing at least 15 out of 100 students. So we need to challenge the status quo, consider new ways of helping kids learn, now almost a quarter of the way into the 21st century. Second, we must innovate how we recruit and retain staff our students need most. To do this, we must look outside ourselves and gain a bigger picture perspective so as to avoid the all too easy trap of believing our own stories. We need to look at neighboring school districts like Ravenswood School District in East Palo Alto, which has successfully increased teacher pay through an innovative career ladder compensation structure. Just Google Ravenswood Teacher Compensation Explainer to learn more about how they've done that. It's really cool. We must shift our culture and our communication structures towards cross-district collaboration and unity, rather than the historical oppositional hierarchies that maintain the status quo. And we have the tools to help us do this, such as the California Labor Management Initiative. And lastly, we need to evolve towards more sustainable practices for our budget, our people, and our planet, better balancing short and long-term needs. I'm grateful for the foundation that has been laid, particularly over the past several months. Yes, I'm looking at you, Jennifer. It will, however, take resolve and continued diligence from all educators and all parents and all students and all in our community to see this through in the years and the decades to come. To quote one of my mentors in a recently published paper on government efficiency, I quote, "Moving fast and breaking things does not work in government. One must collaborate with civil servants," that's like you guys, "to change the way the work gets done. Success depends on the unsexy, hard to implement changes in operational processes that can be embedded in government departments." So I encourage all to take the opportunity this holiday season to take a deep breath, slow down to speed up, and set an intention for the new year based on peace and progress for our community, and be ready to work truly together for our students in 2025 and beyond. So I hope everybody has a fantastic holiday. Thank you.
Mary Beth.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about last week. Carmen and I were at a meeting down in Anaheim, our California School Boards Association, and it was great. We learned a ton. We went to sessions all day, and it was good. It got us thinking about things. And out of all the sessions and all the stuff I learned, all the new ideas I had, there's one thing I kept thinking about, and Carmen's heard this already, because it seems so simple, but to me it kind of hit me funny. I was talking with a guy there, and he was a contractor, so he was not in education, but he would contract with different school districts, and he was saying, we were talking about how hard it is for him to get things done because, he thinks they're going to do a project, and then they're negotiating, and then they don't have the money, or things change, and all this, they keep getting pushed back because they keep having to negotiate and do all this stuff. And whatever, we were just talking about it. And then he said to me, he goes, it's a system that's set up for conflict. And that really hit me that he said that, because I just think like, oh, it's just horrible. But he said it's a system set up for conflict. And I was thinking about it, and I'm like, it really is. So, when we fall in the hole, I don't feel so bad, I guess, because I think it's set up for that. So I guess to me, I'm kind of thinking about it in a different way now. If there's a system that's set up for conflict, like what can we do to proactively get around that hole or move around it. You know, and what other aspects of our lives do we do this in already where we see conflict? You know, I don't know, you get married, suddenly you're living with someone, you're making joint decisions on money. You know, there's other things we do in our life. But somehow when he said that to me and I could see the whole, it made me think about it more. And then that kind of worked into yesterday, which was a meeting. We had a meeting 9 to 3:30 yesterday for the Learning Management Institute, which Sophia referred to. And it's basically a group that Bianca has gotten going. And it's got people from the board, from administration, from both of our labor unions, and we're really trying to work around how to improve these relationships. And I think everyone there is willing and wants to do this. And it just really hit me when he said that. Like, we have to assume we're going down that hole because it's set up that way, and try to figure out how we're going to get around it. So that really hit me. So I just wanted to share that. I also just wanted to thank Jeff for all his work, because I'm telling you, this man has walked into a job with a ton of work, and he's been running around like crazy. So thank you for jumping in with both feet and just going for it. And then I also just wanted to say thank you to Kim and Sophia. They've been on the board 8 years. I've been here 6, so they've, you know, seen me through all of it. And it's nice to have someone there, and they're, you know, to always be thinking about what we're doing, if it's best for students. And it really is more than just a volunteer job. It's a way of life. You know, I'm thinking about it all the time, and what we're doing, and, you know. So anyway, I just wanted to thank them for being there and for all that they've done, because it is a commitment for sure. And thanks for all the support, and it's been great having this board. So thanks for that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Carmen? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to repeat what Mary Beth was saying about thank you so much for my 2 years, 2 new year, can't talk. My first 2 years on the board, I have been looking to both of you for guidance, and you guys have been setting such a wonderful tone and showing me how it's done, answering my questions, and I really appreciate all the workshops you email me all the time. So I'll get one, I will. And of course, Kim, thank you so much for all of the time you spent with me. Just want to say thank you from my heart. And yes, the CSBA board convention was a lot. I have a stack of notes this tall that I need to go through. So thank you.
Is that?
I want to take this opportunity to thank you both, Kim and Sophia. I want to thank you, Sophia. I remember the first time I met you, I was actually involved with the DLAC, the District Learning Advisory Committee for English language learners, and I have to say that I was very impressed that you were the first board member to take the time, and in your broken and very confusing Spanish, you still, you still tried to communicate with the families, and that says a lot. I mean, we didn't really understand a lot what you said, but the fact that you did that says a lot. So thank you. And it's no secret. The only reason I'm sitting here is because of Sophia, who downplayed this responsibility. Very, absolutely not. But I do have to say that even though it's been a challenge and it's been hard, I always appreciate the support. I also appreciate your involvement with the community, and just, in your broken English, trying to text, community leader, broken Spanish, I'm sorry, my broken, I have of the time, I don't know what language you're speaking, but thank you, because it's, it means a lot, and I really, really appreciate it, and thank you for it. And Kim, I really appreciate just knowing you, different perspective. You're definitely an amazing listener, a very open-minded and just calm soul, and sometimes that's what we need. And I've learned a lot from you that I know that I wouldn't have because of just our demographics and just our differences, but it's important, it's important to see both sides and it's important to listen. And I've learned that from you. So I really want to thank you. So thank you so much. Thank you for everything that you've been doing and everything that you continue to do, because I know that both of you will continue to support the community and speak your truths and, always advocate for what you feel is right. So I really want to commend you guys for that and thank you for your time. And yeah, thank you. And I just want to speak very briefly in Spanish. Sí, nada más quiero darle las buenas noches a las dos miembros de aquí de mesa directiva que ya van de salida, y nada más quiero darle las gracias a las dos. En primer lugar, Sofía siempre ha sido una persona que ha estado involucrada con la comunidad latina, siempre ha abogado, siempre ha tratado de animar a la gente que participemos. Ha hecho muchas cosas, desde estar en las líneas durante la distribución de comida, hemos ido a alas, ayudar con la comida y pasar la palabra y hacer todo eso, y quiero decirle las gracias, y si no fuera por ella, no estuviera aquí. También quiero darle las gracias a Kim Hines, porque aunque somos muy diferentes, al final del día somos de la misma comunidad y queremos lo mejor para la comunidad, y le quiero dar las gracias por la nueva perspectiva y por todo lo que ha hecho por la comunidad, los niños y en esta mesa directiva. Muchas gracias, buena suerte. Yo sé que van a seguir involucradas en una forma u otra, no en esta capacidad, pero muchas gracias, y no es adiós, sino hasta luego. Gracias.
Thank you, everyone, for your kind words. And it's been a sincere pleasure to serve Cabrillo Unified School District and to serve with this fine board. I appreciate Sophia highlighting the many good works and accomplishments that we've had. And I appreciate the many teachers and administrators and families that support our students, and just remind us all to lean into giving that grace and space for a full conversation, to reframe we have to do this with a, gosh, I'm worried if we do that something else might happen. Can you tell me more about how it might work? Figuring out how to have that two-way conversation, I think, is truly essential for this community. Frankly, I'm still very worried about funding. The fact that our 2,500 students are just a fraction of the 51, let me get that number right, 51,000, I'm getting this, no. Anyways, there's a whole lot of students. Like more than half of the students in San Mateo County are in the districts that are underfunded. And so when I say underfunded, it means we don't have the spending power per student that you would have in Visalia or Bakersfield or Fresno, or half of the districts in San Mateo County. So we have, in San Mateo County, we truly have haves and have-nots in terms of the power of the purse. And trying to figure out how to continue to move forward and have healthy conversations in a way that don't put people on the defensive, I think is critical. And you met tonight Mike O'Neill, who was just elected to the San Mateo County School Board, and he's willing to advocate and work with the unions across all of the underfunded districts, including us. And he doesn't even represent us, but he sees that importance. So I'm just grateful that in telling that story and digging deeper to understand how we're underfunded, that I've built relationships with people across other districts, and hope to continue that networking. So that's my hope for the community and what maybe I can continue to contribute into the future. So thank you everyone for your support, and for parents, and to acknowledge Hatch parents that are frustrated right now. Those frustrations are legitimate, they're real. And please know that I do believe I speak for the board, that every single board member cares deeply about finding solutions, and know that at all times that's our sincere desire. So thank you. Jamie.
Okay, I'm gonna start with just the site reports and then I'll move into my slideshow. So at El Granada Elementary, classrooms are busy exploring holidays and celebrations around the world. Construction is in full swing, and the PTO outdid themselves with the amazing Night of Lights float in the parade last week. We look forward to ushering in the holiday break with our Wake Up and Read event next Friday morning. At Fairlawn View, their annual Continent Day was a magical day of celebration as students wandered from classroom to classroom, exploring different countries and regions of North America. Students painted a portrait of Frida Kahlo in TK's Mexico, swam through a kelp forest in kindergarten's Pacific Ocean, viewed the aurora borealis in the 4th grade's Alaska, and much more. Classroom spelling bees will take place next week in preparation for our school-wide bee in January. At Hatch, the intervention team hosted a literacy night for the community yesterday evening, and they continue to sell tons of books through their annual week-long book fair. 3rd grade students are sponsoring a toy drive of new and gently used toys that will be donated at the end of next week to the Ronald McDonald House. And finally, at Kings Mountain, Stone Soup was rainy and the performances were amazing. Classes are creating winter holiday cards for Meals on Wheels and recipients at senior co-siders. And we are looking forward to the Wizards Assembly on January 9th. Happy holidays. And then I'm gonna move into my slideshow. Or, yeah, if not, I have a short little spiel. I can just say it. Oh no, it's all good. Okay, winter sports are officially underway with soccer, basketball, and wrestling. Those teams are already having strong start to their seasons. Last week, some of Half Moon Bay High School's exceptional students, both inside and outside the classroom, were recognized by their teachers at the Outstanding Cougar Luncheon. And finally, students have been working hard to prepare for finals next week. This is always a stressful time for high school students, but there's also a lot of excitement about the upcoming winter break. Thank you.
Go ahead, Martin.
All right. For Cunha Intermediate, the ELAC meetings had a wonderful presentation by Dr. Jerry Lopez. The 7th and 8th grade basketball seasons are underway, and the Cunha MU was standing room only for the winter concert, and 4 band groups perform. The Cunha Winter Dance is taking place tomorrow night. For Half Moon Bay, the winter sports have begun in earnest, and their community on campus organized a successful beautification on November 23rd. College application deadlines for CSU and UC colleges have passed. They are preparing for student course signups for the years 2025 and 2026. And their Safe Space program is growing, and final exams are next week. For Pilarcitos High Schools, the students are looking forward to their field trip to the DMV as part of the driver ed course many are taking. We are also scheduling a series of workshops by the Marine Science Institute. Sorry, I can't speak today. The Costa Adult School are celebrating the graduation of 2 high school diploma students in the fall semester, with more to come in the spring. We are also eagerly looking forward to our 2nd annual offering of our Senior Home Care Aid program starting on February 25th, 2025. Anyone interested in more information or registering should call their office at 650-712-7140. For Los Listos Preschool, December was a very busy month at Los Lisos, and dental screening was done by Sonrisas last week. And students are learning about the cycles of the pine trees and learning about their families and community. The students will have a small holiday celebration and will sing to their parents the last day of school, December 20th at their arrival. This slideshow? Huh. Did you guys confuse the room?
I thought I have yours, but not hers, and I have hers.
That's hers. I think I sent mine to Acosta. Did she not send it to you?
No, when did you send it to her?
I sent it to her yesterday.
You might have to fix it when you get to his.
Hmm? Oh.
Just go back to hers.
What? Oh. This?
Yep.
Okay. Yep.
It's thinking.
Are you sharing it with me?
Just.
It should be with you now.
Sure, go ahead,
I think
Jeff.
that's for the best. Yep.
Dr. Harding.
All right, great. And I'll be brief. I continue to be so grateful to be in this position. I'm just having a blast. The people that I meet on a daily basis are supportive and encouraging and positive. There's just so many great things going on. I've been able to visit all the schools at least a couple of times. We had a chance to talk yesterday. It's just having a great time. So, as I mentioned before, with the exception of my dog, who is very upset by this whole thing, me being in Half Moon Bay, I'm really very much enjoying myself and just grateful to be here. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Harding. The slide shows up.
Okay. Pillar Cedos update, December 12th, 2024. Natural Bridges update. Earlier this month, students returned to Natural Bridges. Students tracked the local monarch butterfly population to compare the data we have collected in our previous visits. Students found that the population of monarch butterflies seemed to have decreased significantly compared to the visits during September and October. Gotta add that. Mural art update. The mural that the students have been working on in the mural art class with the local artist Ellen Silva has been coming along quite well, and that's about it because Pillar Cedos has been uneventful this December.
Thank you. That brings us to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And we do have a public comment here from Doug Menke. I would like to express my support for consideration on a new two-pool aquatic center at the Half Moon Bay High School. There is a lack of nearby locations for Half Moon Bay residents to enjoy recreational swimming, a great form of non-impact exercise. The current hours for the high school pool are very limited, and it would be great to have expanded hours for community swimming. Thank you for your consideration of my request. Doug Menke. Call the vote.
Kimberly Hines,
Aye.
Carmen Danielle,
Yes. Aye.
Lisette Cortez,
Aye.
Mary Beth,
Aye.
Sophia Lane,
Aye.
Jamie Bell,
Aye.
and Martin Juarez.
Aye.
Thank you. That brings us to general business, Pillar Cedos High School presentation.
Good evening, board, Superintendent Harding, everyone. Get this presentation going. I am known to be pretty verbose, so I'm going to keep this very, very short. We've cut this down. Is it a little too far? How's that? How's that? Okay. I have it on my phone. I could read it off of that if we need to. Yeah, no problem. Okay, well, so we're here to talk about Pilarcitos High School. This is one of my favorite presentations to give each year because Pilarcitos is such a fantastic place to work, such a great support for our kids. Next slide, please. Okay, so Pilarcitos, our mission is this. We are a continuation school, fully accredited by WAS, so our diploma is as good as any high school. We are comprehensive. Alternative high school because we take students who are in need of continuation services. They may not have the credits they need to graduate, or a comprehensive school like Half Moon Bay High School simply isn't the right fit for them in order to graduate. So we focus on them as individuals, and we support them as individuals and really get to know them to find out what works for them in their education. We also support the high school independent study program. So our teachers work in the morning hours with Pilarcitos students and then support the independent study students in the afternoon. And our whole basis for the way we operate is through restorative practices, restorative circles. They are part and parcel of how we do our education. I lead circles now. I've learned how to do this as part of the school, and it really, really is a fantastic way to operate a school like this. Next slide, please. So in just some of the data, I think the most important thing to focus on for us is that second bullet point, students with disabilities. We have 34% and growing students with disabilities with IEPs in our school, and it is such a significant part, and we work really, really hard with our students, both the individual support our general ed teachers can supply, but also the fantastic support with Ken, who's over here, and Martina, who come and do so much work with the kids and really support them and get to know them. But it's very, very important and I'll circle back to how we're helping support students with disabilities as they come through the high school and to Half Moon Bay High School and to Pilarcitos. Next slide, please. One thing on the last slide, though, just so you know, our enrollment, we cap it at about 42 for Pilarcitos students and 42 for independent study students. So we're pretty much maxed out. We have a little bit of room for Pilarcitos students, a couple more. We should be getting maybe 2 or 3 more in the new semester. And we're already over max for independent study for this year. And in terms of our achievement data, the most important thing really is our graduation rate, which has been steadily going up, 40% in 21-22, and we're now almost at 70%. It's gone up and up and up. We had a huge graduation class for us this last year. I think we had 19 students. Some of the board members and district staff were there. Very, very exciting to see our kids succeeding, not just with diplomas, but also being able to test out with the high set and other forms of equivalency. Next slide, please. And of course, experiential learning is one of our key ways that we engage students. Martine just talked about some of the monarch work that we've been doing. We also have native plant restoration, and our class that we started last year, our horse class, equine education, hugely popular, very, very important experiential learning classes that our kids are really hands-on, engaged, science, and all kinds of other skills that they learn. Next slide, please. Our new course that we have, our agricultural leadership program, we partnered with Elkus Ranch, and our students are taking a 12-week course there that they will learn all aspects of animal and gardening, animal husbandry and gardening at Elkus, and then we'll teach elementary school kids the same kind of skills as they go on. So that's fantastic. It's just starting now. We'll be working with that as we go on through the next semester. Next slide, please. And then we also support some programs. One of them is we are the hub for restorative practice, as I mentioned. We now run restorative circles all over the district through Lauren Hicks, who works with us and has worked with us for years, modeling from Pillarcitos out to all the different sites to use it for community circles and building trust in the classrooms and conflict resolution, and as alternatives to suspension and other types of disciplinary matters. So a huge program that originated with Pillarcitos. And then the other important piece is the special education support, the Cove at the high school. We're trying to keep students who have IEPs from needing to come to a continuation school. We're trying to support them. As soon as they start failing classes, we see any kind of difficulty with keeping up with their coursework, we support them in credit recovery. And the idea, as soon as that starts in 9th grade, we keep supporting them all the way through so that hopefully by the time they're seniors, they are able to graduate at Half Moon Bay High School and won't require continuation school, which will help us also bring down that kind of high percentage of students with disabilities at the school and keep kids, at the high school where most people, want to be and where they want to finish. So I think that is it. Any questions? Next slide, please. There we go. That is it. Thank you very much. Any questions for me?
Thank you, Mr. Barnes, for presenting Pillarcitos, and we really appreciate all of the effort that goes into offering these educational services. They're quite worthy.
Thank you.
I got a question about the Cove kids. So when you get them, are they still at the high school?
Yes, this is an entirely high school program. We wrote a grant that pays for a section at the high school. It's all high school teachers. So we support it in that sense that we created it, asked the high school to do it, came up with the money for them to do it. But it's a high school special ed teacher, takes the kids and supports them in like Edgenuity, online learning so they can recover their credits, supported much more intensively than a kid who's in gen ed who might be in the same circumstance.
So then those kids aren't included in your data set?
So they are not included in our data at all. What our data of the 34% includes the kids who are at Pillarcitos already. What we want to try to do is reduce those numbers somewhat by supporting them at Half Moon Bay High School before they ever need to come to Pillarcitos.
And back to the independent study, you said there's a waiting list. How big of a waiting list? I'm just curious.
I think we have, that's a good question. I don't remember the exact numbers. I don't think it was only 2 or 3 at the moment.
Oh,
Not huge right now. We just went over our numbers.
Do you think there would be more if there was more space allotted?
Yeah, I mean, if we had more space, I know that we would fill it, yes.
So then that brings me around to my next question, which I always talk about, is the concurrent enrollment stuff. So I know if a kid is at the high school and they're doing concurrent enrollment, that there's, they're required to take 4 classes at the high school, and then they can also do the concurrent enrollment. But if the kid goes through independent study, they can take concurrent enrollment, and I think there's no limit to what, I know kids that take 1 class at the high school. So there's some different rules.
There are different rules between concurrent enrollment and independent study,
And
yes.
I wonder if there's an opportunity for maybe some of those concurrent enrollment kids that are at the high school. What I hate about it is that it's not the same, and I don't think people maybe know that.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there are kids at the high school who might appreciate knowing about the concurrent enrollment rules at Pillarcitos. It's
Yeah,
the
we have a number-
Happy Bay High School Independent Study Program.
Yeah.
So that they could take however many classes they want at the high school, however many classes they want at the community college, and however many classes they want for Edgenuity. There's just a lot of flexibility there. Do you think that's an opportunity to expand the independent study program in the future?
Absolutely. We have course-based independent study where a number of students take classes at the high school. They stay at the high school, but they're not there maybe full-time. And then they take as many courses as work out with us at Pillarcitos. And they don't have to necessarily be Edgenuity classes. They could be taking other online types or even stuff at the community colleges as well.
UC Scout?
Like UC Scout, for instance, exactly.
Yeah, I guess I've always hated that it's not the same rules, but it's the same school.
It is different. It's the same school, but different rules when you go through independent study, correct?
And it just seems like at least everyone should know that. So I don't know.
No, I totally hear you.
I think I've talked to you about that before, but I just wondered about your thoughts. And that also rolls into the independent study class, which is full. And I just wonder if that's might be an opportunity that might serve some kids better, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, you know, our numbers are based really on the capacities of our teachers to manage the caseload, and that's the bottom line with that, yeah.
Can I ask you, I know you've talked to this before, but I think that you are worried about the percentage of disabilities and that you have at Pillarcitos.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that just to explain why that is and what you're hoping to do to fix that?
Well, I mean, it's just, we have a limited.
Change that, I think it's a better.
We want to change that because we have a limited amount of support for special ed. You know, we have a 2.2, you know, a 1.2 and another 0.2 teachers that come down and serve. So one teacher comes for one day on Thursday, another candidate comes, you know, in the mornings 4 days a week. So it's hard to serve the kids with the kind of minutes that they require to serve their IEP goals. So we want to make sure we have you know, a total of a 0.4 special ed, but 34%. I mean, even though, yeah, we have low numbers, it's still very high need. And some of our students are some of the most vulnerable students, you know, in the district, having come to us for all kinds of reasons that, you know, were difficult for them to succeed in the comprehensive school. So that's why we want to make sure we maintain a strong special ed presence as teachers, but also hopefully that being a special education student, having an IEP at the high school doesn't mean you're much more likely to end up needing continuation school than gen ed kids. That would be, that's why we're supporting the Cove.
I just wanted to first start by saying thank you so much. I think at Pillarcitos High School, you did such an amazing job of seeing each kid, and I think it is part of the model, but it's also just part of the ethos and the culture at your school where each kid is seen as an amazing human being, and you know, oftentimes it's not the case with students that don't fit a certain mold, right? That aren't the round pegs. We have square peg. We're all square pegs, triangle pegs. Like that's just the beauty of like humanity, and I appreciate that Pillarcitos not only tolerates that but encourages that and really sees that as a strength in people in terms of that diversity in all different levels. So first, I want to thank you that, and you guys are just. It's amazing what you do and how well you serve your students. So I'm really grateful for that. And I wanted to support, I guess, the 2 points that Mary Beth mentioned as well is thinking, and it also could be, I think, of an opportunity potentially and something to look at from the financial side as well, because we have the opportunity to shift where resources are, right? So if you can get another half teacher at Pillarcitos and get more kids with them because they are taking concurrent enrollment classes, right? They don't need as much help potentially, most likely if they're taking a class somewhere else or a Genuity or whatever. There could be potential efficiencies there as well, which could alleviate some of the concerns I think that you expressed around resource availability. So if 3 are maxed out, okay, well, if students need it and it's actually as efficient, if not more efficient than a typical conventional classroom setting, maybe having more independent study allocation, especially CBIS, where they could still take some classes at Half Moon Bay High School could be, I think, a win-win. So that's my thought on the concurrent enrollment piece. And the special ed piece too, I think you nailed it with the last thing that you said as well. Which is you want to make sure that students, regardless of their learning diversities, can be successful at any school. And if we don't take care to make Half Moon Bay High School a place where students with different kinds of disabilities can be successful, and we expect that they just go to Pillarcitos, right? When you have any kind of disability, you're essentially segregating our student population based on their abilities, which is not only illegal, it's unethical and immoral. So I appreciate how you phrase it at the end to say, because again, you could allocate more special ed teachers to Pillarcitos, but you don't want to do that because that will be encouraging this kind of segregation of students based on their abilities, which is not good. So I think if students have their preference, regardless of what their abilities are, it should be more preference driven than ability driven, ideally to be at either school. So they're, it's more of a choice than unnecessary default. So, and I think there's been, just in my 8 years, and Kim, in my 8 years that we've been here too, so much progress having been made, shifting the model, shifting the expectations to being what's best for students, just based on what they need, regardless of what their situations are. And that's something to be really proud of. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Sorry.
I
go ahead.
just had one more comment, and I just wanted to tell you that I appreciate you using the data to see the problems and that you're actively trying new solutions to try to solve them. So thank you for that. Good job.
Well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a great night.
Item 5B, Educational Support Services Update.
Good evening, Superintendent Harding, President Hines, esteemed board members, colleagues, teachers, and community members. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. Before we begin, I would like to invite my team to introduce themselves. I'd like to mention each team member here plays an integral part. They have a special role in ensuring the success of our program, our special education programs, and there's many more that are not here today, like our special education teachers, our school psychologists, our SLPs, speech pathologists. So there's a big team, but we're here to present today. So I'll start with introductions.
Good evening. My name is Caroline Morton, and I'm coordinator of mental health support services and clinical supervisor.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Beach. I'm a board-certified behavior analyst supporting CUSD across schools for behavior intervention services.
Hello, I'm Susan Vanna, and I'm the school health coordinator for our district.
Next slide, please. This evening, it is our privilege to provide you with a comprehensive update on the Cabrillo Unified School District Special Education Department. Our services encompasses a specialized education placement. I'll go over that in a little bit. Health and medical support through our dedicated nursing practices. Mental health and emotional well-being provided by our counseling services. And also behavior intervention facilitated by our behavior specialist. Together, these services present the department's commitment to meeting the needs of our diverse students, their uniqueness in the learning styles, their disabilities, ensuring equitable access to education, and always ensuring that it is the least restricted environment. Next slide, please. We begin our mission through our implementation of our multi-tier systems of support. We are committed to address the diverse needs of our students through the framework. It is implemented at all the sites. This engages early identification and prevention while providing support before we are moving into assessments. This individualized support is based on data. It's a data-driven instruction. Our focus is creating inclusive learning environments with the least restricted environment. These needs are tailored for the students by empowering a holistic, collaborative approach. We address here the physical, emotional, social, and academic needs of each student. This is basically the cycle of inquiry. It's a reflection to ensure that we are practicing some interventions, visit in 6 weeks, look at the progress, use data to determine whether we move forward with additional intervention, decide if the team needs to have additional supports, provide the most appropriate placement is always the key to ensure the success of all our students from Cabrillo Unified School District. Next slide, please. Under the Individuals with Disabilities Educational Act, students may qualify for special education through evaluation of assessments, both psychological and academics. To be eligible, students must follow the criteria. They must be identified in one of the 13 recognize disability categories. They must demonstrate that the disability adversely affects their educational performance. A determination that specialized programs and supports are required, which cannot be adequately addressed through adaptation in the general education. So our key is always to see how we can support within the classroom. And a key element of this is always having a strong Tier 1 instruction in the classroom. So that's very important to ensure that all the students are getting adequate first, very well, solid instruction, checking for understanding, pair share, all those good tools in the teachers are very critical. It is important to know that while some students may have a disability, they may not meet the eligible criteria for special education if the disability does not significantly impact their educational performance, which means they could have a disability, but they might be getting A's, B's, and some C's. In these cases, students may instead qualify for accommodations in the regular classroom, or they can also qualify for a 504 plan if it is a medical condition. Next slide, please. Basically, I got an opportunity to extract some data, and here we present internal data reflecting the district's-wide distribution of students with disabilities category. So this year, the total number of eligible students last month was 411. I have an update. Right now, we're at 419, and about 8 students being currently assessed. So we will probably be moving up. This data not only helps us understand the needs of our students, our community, our population, but also informs us on the allocation of resources and planning for the delivery for this year and also for next year. We're working closely with our HR department to ensure that we have appropriate school settings for the students when it comes to hiring and making sure that we have the qualified personnel to support our students with special needs. This underscores the growing demands for specialized support and highlights our commitment to serving all students to ensure that they do have the least restricted environment. So that's always the goal, to ensure that we provide an adequate learning environment where they have exposure and ability to interact with all the other students as well. Next slide, please.
I'd like to reintroduce myself. I am Elizabeth Beach. I am a BCBA, which is Board Certified Behavior Analyst, certified for breaking down behaviors, their functions, and how we can appropriately give each student their own replacement behaviors that are more appropriate for social and emotional development. Next slide, please. So behavioral health services and supports accommodates a plethora of things. I'm just going to summarize it. It provides behavioral health interventions and supports across students, staffs, and families in various comorbidity conditions. This is provided through various observations, developmental assessments, social and emotional levels, and multidisciplinary collaboration to create individual support plans across multiple staff members, such as psychologists, our own SPED team, RSP teachers, principals, and so forth. Next slide. It's broken up into 3 tiers to make it a little easier to assess each child's needs. There's Tier 1, which is universal training, which is essentially classroom management, training, and supports. Tier 2 is small group supports and classroom behavior interventions. And Tier 3 is where you'll find the individual behavior interventions for high-risk concerns, and most likely where you'll find the behavior intervention support plans. Next slide. As of this fiscal school year, we are serving across all 8 school sites, including ages from pre-K all the way to 12th grade. Our Tier 1 systems are 50.6%. Tier 2 systems are 31.2%, and our Tier 3 right now is 18.2% of the SPED population. And that is...
Good evening. In the time restraints we have, I'm just going to go through a couple highlights, and some updated numbers. You can change the slide, thanks. This is just the role of the school nurse to kind of define what we do in the district. As most of you know, I consider 8 schools because we now have the preschool. So it consists preschool to 12th grade. Next slide. Actually, you can go right there, thanks. So it's talking about the tiers. Tier 1 is basically our prevention, is Tier 1. In our district, we currently have 647 students with some type of a health condition. This is a lot in considered a small district. It's about 1 in 4 students have a health condition. So keeps me busy. We have currently 82 staff members trained in rescue medications and protocols. And as you know, we have mandated vision and hearing screenings by the CDE code in TKK 2nd, 5th, 8th, and 10th grade. So far, we have screened 755 students in vision and the 775 students in hearing. Of the 755 students trained in screen and vision, 80 have been referred out, and about 30% of those, the parents have finished and completed the referral process. We have currently helped 8 students with glasses or exams, or both, through our program with Zenni Optical or with our local Lions Club, which are tremendous help to us. Next slide. Actually, I already did that, so next slide. Thank you. You've all read the PowerPoint. There are several things that are considered in Tier 1, Tier 2 that we do. The emergency bags. And when we did have our evacuation last week, it was nice to see all the teachers from Hatch with their emergency bag on their shoulders. Next slide. Our Tier 3 is our medically fragile students, our students with medical 504s and IEPs with a strong medical component. And we do have a large amount of medical 504s in our district. Next slide. Our last thing is our Hazel Health program. This is, we're to our 3rd school year using this virtual medicine program that was designed for schools. It's designed to help schools where you don't have a lot of nurses helping in the school district. And the goal of it is to decrease student absenteeism and to help healthcare for all students. And just the updated numbers for this school year so far as of December 10th, we've done 301 student visits, 93.8% have returned back to the classroom and have saved 864 school hours. And then my last thing is a plug for, if you don't know, we have urgent care that's been set up in Half Moon Bay. It is a 6-month trial, I'm going to call it, pilot study. And if it's successful, it will probably continue. So please get the word out. I have flyers for you. The school community has received them all. One side's English, one side's Spanish.
Do we have the slides for the next slide? Okay.
Information slide. I get a lot of frequent questions on what's the difference between a credentialed school nurse, an RN, an LVN, an unlicensed health aide or health technician. And this was just a slide I put in for your information that answers a lot of those questions and also gives you the CDE code numbers that it references. Thank you.
Okay, so I would like to just highlight some of the things that are that we're providing under mental health and wellness support services. Next slide, please. And one of the programs that I'm really proud of is our school-based counseling internship program, where we have graduate students who are placed at our various school sites and providing short-term school-based counseling for students. Currently, we have served just this school year, we've served 127 students in this counseling program. Referrals come in through teachers, administrators, sometimes parents call in and request counseling for their students. And so we're able to serve them. Also, as part of this program, we're able to provide counseling support services through ERMS, which is the students that have mental health services in their IEPs. And so we're also able to provide some in-house support services for them as well. Part of our mental health wellness program also, we've expanded a lot of our wellness programs in the high school, at Pilarcitos, at Cunha. I really want to emphasize the restorative justice program rollout district-wide as well. We also do alternative to suspension programs at the high school. Our counselors offer brief intervention for students who've had a first offense of any sort of behavior related to substance use as well. And so, next slide. We have a partnership. We have various partnerships under with mental health and wellness collaborations. One of them is our social emotional learning curriculums that are available to all of our elementary schools. We partner with Changing Perspectives and Second Step curriculum that's available for all of our teachers. Also, family engagement is really important. In fact, last week I was just at Moonridge and offered a Las Platicas is a parent support group for our Latino families. And I'm working on maybe creating some webinars as well. It's sort of the new thing this year that I'm hoping to kick off in collaboration with Elizabeth Veach. And just every May, as some of you might know, we also spearhead our Wellness Festival, where we collaborate with all of our community partners, and we have a really amazing event here at Cunha. And just to highlight the importance of mental health in our community. Next slide. And so this is just a highlight of the restorative justice practices that has really expanded throughout our district. And there's been a lot of interest within our administrators, teachers, support staff. I'm actually part of the Saturday sessions that is led by Lauren Hicks and Lizette Bandanya, and they've been amazing. And the attendance has been incredible as well, because it's really a multidisciplinary group of folks that attend. So there's a real passion there for expanding restorative justice programs through our district. And next slide. And then I also wanted to highlight our Cognitive Behavioral Intervention for Trauma in Schools program called CBITS. And this is a recently funded program through the Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative, where we are rolling out 10-week groups for students that are working through a particular trauma and under using a cognitive behavioral training. We actually, a few of us have gone through the training. We've already started a group at Pilarcitos. We've started a group at the high school. And in January, I'll be starting a group at Cunha Middle School. So that's a very exciting new development for this year. Next slide. And then I just also wanted to highlight the wellness programs that we have, especially at the high school. We have at our Safe Space, Martin had mentioned our Safe Space program at Half Moon Bay High School. And this is a youth-led club that right now the membership, I wrote down, we actually have 26 students that are now part of this club, which is pretty amazing because 2 years ago, I think we had like maybe 2. And so this is a really great program. They've been collaborating with community partners. We've had Cora come in and do presentations on healthy relationships, and yeah, so that's just another really exciting thing. We have the wellness room, so if you've been to the high school, I really encourage you to go check out the wellness room. It's a beautiful space, very calming, and at Cunha, we have the chill space, also just a really great space. And so I think I'm really encouraged. Also, I've been with the school district for many, many years. It'll be 20 years next year. And I'm really heartened by just having seen sort of the expansion and awareness around the importance of mental health and wellness for all, including students, families, and staff. So, thank you. Questions for any of us? Yes.
I've got a Hazel Health question. I noticed that it looked like it was mostly being used by Hatch in the high school. Is there any reason for that, or any comments on that?
Population, that is a good question. I don't really know the answer to that. Hatch, they use it a lot. They see a lot of elementary's a little different. They see a lot. They've also got a bigger population of students. Third is El Granada, and fourth is Cunha, I think, right now.
Just looked like it looked like a big gap.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking,
yeah.
it seems good. I just want to make sure we're making the most of it because, it's another line item on our budget, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. I thought maybe there's some reason. And why would they be going to Hazel Health at the high school and not the health tech?
They are in the health tech's office. So they'll initiate it because maybe they need they have a stomach ache, they have, they're coughing, there's certain things that can be addressed, given some medication, go back to class. So that's what happens a lot at the high school.
But Hazel Health can do that and the health aide can't.
Because they're seeing a practitioner, they're seeing an MD, a nurse practitioner, or PA on the virtual medicine. So they can order it. They have a locked cabinet that then they can give the medication. So it helps out a lot of students. It's a student population that used to be sent home. And then parents took off work, took them over the hill for an appointment. So it's it really helps that kind of just minor health care that we used to have to send home.
Good.
And it helps it's all the front office staff using it at Hatch. And so it's hard for them, they can't make those decisions. And at Hatch in the prior years, the principal that left 2 years ago, she used to even do some Hazel Health visits. The staff in front was really busy, she'd take the student in and do it.
Okay,
What's
thanks.
the cost?
I think it's about $50,000 a year.
It's 42 this year.
42?
So we'll be up, we had a 3-year contract. When we did it before, I helped Jesus negotiate, and we got it. I said, what do you want me to go negotiate? And so we did, and we got it. It dropped each year. So we'll be up to be figuring that out going forward after this school year.
I also I wanted to thank Israel for also stepping into this role because he was asked to do it and he did it, and it's a big change. So I know you've done a lot to get on board with that. So thank you for that. I also wanted to ask about the billing for Medi-Cal. I know that in the past we had started doing that, and I think maybe there's room to expansion. So if anyone can speak to that, I'd be curious.
Yes, we've been researching it out again. It is a time commitment to set up. With the program we have in SACE for our IEPs, they do get billed, and we do get some reimbursement with the Medi-Cal students.
And that's through, we're using a company in Alameda?
No, we use SACE, which is out of San Joaquin Valley, and it is our billing system that helps with all our IEPs. They have what's called a non-SACE, which is where we could actually start billing for vision screenings, hearing screenings, students with 504s that have diabetes, but and they have Medi-Cal. It's quite a setup that we're evaluating with the reimbursement. We've recently had 2 meetings this week. With the reimbursement we would be getting, is it worth it to spend the cost to set it up?
And they would be doing the billing, not someone
We
here?
have to do the inputting,
I see.
and they do the billing.
They do charge us a percentage, though, 12% for doing it for us. But we're researching it and trying to figure if we're going to balance out the same or if we're going to get some profit. So I think today we got an email of the amount that we would get back from vision and hearing assessments per child. So we have to look at the numbers and do some calculations. But we're working on that.
There's also an expansion within the Medi-Cal reimbursement that could also include non-sped students, so general ed students that are receiving counseling, that we actually could get reimbursement through Medi-Cal as well, and that's a new development.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to comment on that too, because I know that was an area of state advocacy too, where I think the rules recently changed, and that might be what you're talking about, because that was recognized as an opportunity to just simplify that process. I thought we had a contract with Alameda County Office of Ed, so it might be something to just double check to see, just for efficiency.
Was it the Office of Ed, though? It was some...
I think so, but it just might be worth double checking to see if there's other partners that could support better than what you're working with now. I tried to find it, but I can't find it in my notes because it's, I don't know, maybe a year ago or something, we signed a contract. But yeah, I just want to thank you and appreciate also for all of you, you know, the work that you do, and Israel also is Mary Vessa coming on board and probably drinking from a fire hose, I imagine, for the last few months. And just the diversity of work that you do and how important it is to not only support kids in that tier 2 to tier 3 level, but also how the work that you're doing is informing tier 1, and how that's really also, again, kind of to my earlier comments, like changing the culture and the function of what we're doing kind of foundationally for students so that they need you less in the future, hopefully, right? With all that tier 1 support that you're doing, hopefully we'll minimize the tier 2, tier 3 stuff that's needed later. So I just want to acknowledge like all that you're doing and all that, you know, to the points that came up earlier about, you know, the struggles that principals have, like it's, and James and I were talking about it at our little coffee break too, like what a hard job it is to be able to juggle not only like the typical stuff that you think happens in a school, but also integrating all the kind of supports that you guys have. It's a lot of complicated stuff for any educator to deal with. So I think it's really great, you know, the work that you're doing to help the kids, and it's can be a little overwhelming because of the amount of stuff that's needed, but that's just the reality of what kids need. So I'm just grateful for the work that you do.
I had one last question. I'm just curious about the staff training on like the CPR, AED training. Like, is it mandated? Who does it? How often? I'm just curious how that
Good
works.
question. It's not mandated. It's something that we offer. If we're going to have EpiPens and AEDs on the sites, we need staff trained in CPR. So we offer it each year. It's January 6th this year. The sign-outs have gone out the beginning of this week. And we have we have about 70 to 90 each year that sign up. Their card's good for 2 years. And it's a program we offer, so yes.
And it seems like there's enough at each school site. I assume you look at all that to
So
make sure.
I have it all rotated. So this year, I know which schools, their cards are getting ready to expire, so they sign up. And then the next year, like we did Cunha this last school year, so they will be next school year, and there's a rotation. So we always have about half of our staff trained. Yeah.
That's my next question.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Item 5C, certification and approval of CUSD first interim financial report, fiscal year 24-25.
Good evening, everybody. I am here to present the 24-25 first interim budget report tonight. And we can go to the next slide, but I do have to just say that, so this was our first report that we did in-house. So we did make a mistake that we caught between it being published, our board packet being published, and tonight. So that mistake has been corrected on our SACS forms, which we've handed out, and our presentation, and then will be updated online also. So, so tonight we're going to cover an update on the district's fiscal outlook and an overview of what is the interim budget report, actions to date to stabilize fiscal condition of the district, updated MYP, and our next steps. And next slide, please. Oh, actually, this is the old presentation, Josefina. So I'll keep talking. So what is the first interim report? It is actual financial data from July 1st through October 31st this school year with revised projections for the remainder of the fiscal year. It does require certification for the district's ability to meet its financial obligations for the current year and 2 following years. And in addition to the first interim report, a second interim report, which is July 1st through January 31st, is presented in March. When this first interim report is approved tonight, it then becomes our new budget. And so, multi-year projections, they cover several different things, assumptions, some basic assumptions, some assumptions in the out years, such as a 2% step in column to our salary increases, 5% health and welfare increase, and we're getting there. You can keep going, Josefina, and actually you can go on to the next slide, please. Okay. Okay. So this is the district's multi-year outlook at our first interim report. You can see the increase, decrease revenue to expenditure, which is our deficit line. You can see that deficit spending in 25-26 and 26-27 continues, about 1.1 to 1.2 million each year. And in our MYP, we are able to meet the 3% reserve in all 3 years, which is the green line. And we do have a positive unappropriated funding balance in all 3 years, so we will be asking for a positive certification tonight. And you can go to the next slide, please. So some of the actions that we've taken to date, some of these are based actually on some conversation that we've been having at our budget advisory committee meetings. And so the first one, all requisitions, $10,000 or more, are being reviewed and approved by our interim superintendent. We currently have a hiring freeze where all positions are reviewed and approved by our interim superintendent. Interim superintendent is also meeting with all department heads and site leaders to discuss reductions that will have the least impact on CUSD's mission. And I believe Jeff is going to complete all of those meetings next week. We have also finished an enrollment projection report. And like I said, this is the first time our staff has completed the first interim budget report in-house for the first time in, I think, 10 years. So, and it was a lot of work. A lot of work. We may have shed a couple tears, but but well worth it. Well worth it. So next slide, please. Okay. So this is our general fund unrestricted 24-25 revenues. We did get some good news to report. Our 24-25 property tax annual growth was projected to increase by 2.5% at budget, which was $33,048,000. That was at budget. SMCOE has provided the P1 property tax estimate of $34.7 million, which is a 7.6 increase. I'm being advised to reflect a conservative increase at our first interim of $1 million, which is the $1 million that you see in the variance. So our first interim now reflects a projected growth of 5.5%. So conservative between the 2.5 and 7.6. The projections will be reevaluated at second interim, and P2 tax report will be received by SMCOE in April. Next slide, please. And these are our expenditures. Again, just unrestricted. All retro and ongoing salary increases that were negotiated are reflected at first interim. The only thing that is not reflected in here is a 2% salary increase effective January 1st, 2025, that were contingent to the partial tax passage. They're not included in this, and neither is the increase to revenue. And that is because the election had not been certified at first interim. So again, that will be updated as second interim. But you can see that the variance is about 11% in salaries, and that's due to the one-time payment, 23-24 retro, and the ongoing 6%. Next slide, please. Okay, the transfers in. I'm kind of calling this our temporarily permanent transfer of Fund 40. It's the one time to achieve fiscal stability, which is our 3.5 million. And you'll see that one time only in 24-25. The transfers outline, you can see that between adopted budget and first interim, that is increased. That is the transfers out to the cafeteria fund, 13. That's due to increase in salaries and additional food costs. And then the contributions line, that is the contributions from the unrestricted to restricted resources in the general fund. It's primarily made up of $5.9 million for our special ed department, $2.5 million for maintenance, and $521,000 for transportation, which supports special ed. And next slide, please. Okay, so this is the components of the ending fund balance of the general fund unrestricted side. Currently projecting a $3.8 million ending fund balance, and it is made up of the $25,000 in revolving cash, 2.345 is the remainder of the Fund 40 balance that will be reassigned, or that'll be assigned to cover the 25-26 balance and part of the 26-27 also. And then the 3% reserve of $1.5 million, which is leaving zero in the unassigned column in the current year. And you can go to the next slide. I just threw in a couple pie charts here for you guys for visuals of the same information that I just covered. So you can see our general fund revenue, and this is unrestricted only. And you can go to the next chart or the next slide. And again, unrestricted only expenditures. In the future, I will break out the admin costs so that we can see certificated, admin, and classified separately. And next slide, please. I think you have to press it one more time. There you go. Here is our timeline of where we are. So we are currently at the first interim report, submitting the audit report also this week, I believe, and working on a fiscal stabilization plan. And we will be submitting first interim report to SMCOE tomorrow, and we'll be receiving some feedback from them. Next slide, please. So here is our next steps for stabilization plan development. As I mentioned, Jeff has been speaking with all the department heads and sites, getting lists together. We are presenting our first interim to the board tonight, receiving input from SMCOE. Audit's been submitted, and Budget Advisory Committee will be reviewing a draft plan and some possible actions. That's probably going to be moving to January, but we're continuing to have conversations with the Budget Advisory Committee. And then in January, you can see, I believe we're putting together a list to bring to the board in January, a draft. And the next slide, please. So tonight, I am requesting that the board approve the 24-25 first interim report with a positive certification The positive certification is that the district will meet its financial obligations for the current fiscal year and 2 following years. And if we have any questions, Brett McFadden is also here, and will join me if you'd like.
Any questions you guys want to start with? I've got a couple too, but go ahead.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all the work you guys have been doing to clean up the budget. I know it's a Herculean task after, I just think about all those presentations where we saw the COVID pandemic relief funding and like several buckets of millions of dollars coming in and out from ESSER funds, ESSER 1, 2, 3. It was like, it was like whiplash trying to keep track of that. And then obviously a lot of like challenges, for a lot of different reasons, but I think to be able to now finally be at the point where we can stabilize, we know we have about $45 million a year, we're kind of stable there now. It's not like all that crazy one-time funding, and you can really get a good grip and work with HR to have the position control in place and really kind of track things carefully and neatly and clean, and to be able to work with the sites to figure out just on an ongoing basis to do the bottoms-up budgeting. I think things are in really good shape to move forward more sustainably, so that's really good. I had 3 questions. One question, which is on slide 10, which is that 24-25 fund balance, general fund unrestricted. The last 3 lines where it says unassigned, and then it says reserve for economic uncertainties, and then unassigned unappropriated amount. I don't know, Josefina, if we can bring that slide up, number 10. The last 2 lines are indented a little bit, but I just want to make clear that I assume those are 3 separate items. The assigned is not like a total of the other 2, right?
They are 3 separate items,
okay,
yes.
So I just wanted to just clarify that for folks if
Yes.
that wasn't clear. Second question with regards to the part, thank you so much for explaining what is in this budget and what's not, because we have had so many things hit at different points in time. And even like you said, like certain things, you know they're coming, but you're not going to include them because things aren't certified yet, So with that, with regards to that, the replacement parcel tax having not been certified and not been included, the 2% salary schedule increases that we approved as part of the consent agenda, also not included in this. Can you just say, qualitatively speaking, are those 2 things like a wash? Like the 2% salary schedule increases will pretty much take up that full amount of that incremental gain from the replacement parcel tax?
Yes, that's true.
Okay, so I just wanted to just check that. And last but not least, we love Brett and Jeff, and we're going to be really, obviously, have been really leaning on you both heavily. Can you just give us a quick, and maybe it's from the 2 of you, like update on kind of the status? I know we approved Jeff's contract as part of the consent agenda, so probably, like Jeff, you can speak to kind of the leadership plan that's ongoing now with regards to a lot of this heavy lifting, like coming back to the board in January when we just approved your contract through January 17th, and how long is Brett going to be around? And to just know that, like, obviously we have Jennifer here at the helm, but it's a big job. It's a big job to do as one person. So can you just speak a little bit, Jeff, to like how you guys fit in over the next few months?
Well, what I was going to discuss is sort of the overview of the budget to make sure you're aware of how it is that we got to a positive certification.
Yeah.
So I don't want to lose that.
Yeah.
We have a structural deficit, and we are deficit spending 3 years in a row. And the only reason we have a positive certification is we took $3.5 million out of a one-time Fund 40 and put it in the checking account, basically, and now we're blowing through that over 3 years. It's not sustainable, and it certainly doesn't allow us to put the money back into Fund 40 because we're just spending it each year with about $1 million a year in deficit spending. So while we are very fortunate that we had Fund 40 to fill that gap, if we didn't have it, things would be looking significantly different than they are now. But I just want to make sure the board is aware that's the reason that the numbers look good in the multi-year and we have a positive certification. So that's good news. but it is not sustainable, and it's the reason that we will be coming forward with reductions in the next board meeting or two. So I've met with everyone now, all the directors, all the principals. I have a fairly lengthy list of reductions that have little impact on our mission, and I'll be moving forward with that list to you in the months to come. Okay?
To answer your question, I think, so Brett is going to continue consulting with me through the end of the school year. He always tells me he's going to consult himself out of a job. So the plan is definitely for our staff to be able to handle this on our own.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. So is it, I'm going to ask some real basic questions looking at this. So if anyone happened to be comparing apples and oranges across districts or across the state, when I'm looking at our budget and I see 36.5 million, is it fair to say 36.55 million divided by 2566 gives us our per pupil funding?
That's one way to calculate it, sure.
Well, just remember,
Sure.
we have other funds as well, besides general fund.
That's just unrestricted.
And that's
Right.
just unrestricted
She's talking
also,
about,
yeah.
Right, but again, if you were to look on, I mean, you know, if a parent or community member looks on US News and World Report, you know, district per pupil funding, if I were to do that math, it's 14,244 per pupil on average in Cabrillo. I think it's still really, really important to understand how that translates across the state. Because if you go to another locale that has a significantly lower cost of living, we would need to be like on average with the rest of the state closer to 19,000 per pupil. So I offer that as a point, not to make excuses for us, but we're a small fish tank, and if people are curious about funding, take the time to have those conversations. I truly appreciate what our finance department is doing, doubling down, understanding how to do our own budget planning and all of the reports without outside consultants, and we're moving in the right direction. And we're doing really an excellent job with the assets that we have. But I just want to I'm hoping that the public will continue to look at how we can collaborate with those other underfunded districts, because I think there's gains to be had if we keep the conversation going. So thank you.
Yeah, and to just say, I think those numbers have been calculated by the San Mateo County Office of Ed for our districts. And I'm just trying to figure out, it's a little bit hard to find, but if you Google San Mateo County Office of SMCOE County Office of Ed Equity Index 2023, you can navigate to the table. It looks like this. You've probably seen this, Jennifer. I'm sure, Brett, you've seen this, which highlights, you know, they've done that math that Kim is describing and breaks it out by the different sources of the funding as well. So, and you can see there are like threefold differences within San Mateo County, which is crazy. And I think we've both been doing a lot of work through various channels to try to address that inequity, in addition to the overall lack of geographical regional cost of living adjustment. So I just want to point out that data is out there, not, you know, just our back of the envelope calculations, but also through the County Office of Ed.
So yeah, where we've got the information for San Mateo County, then you have to like back up and look at it across the state. So,
There is a per pupil expenditure amount that I do calculate every year.
Yep.
And you have to back out certain expenditures. I think sped costs are one that you actually back out. So there's a whole formula to it.
I had just a few things. I wanted to tell you that I really liked the memo, the whole memo. You explained a lot of stuff in the memo
Thank you.
beforehand, so
Thank
good
you.
job. So check out the memo. So as far as our reserves go, am I correct that how much do we have? Is it like 3 to 4 weeks of payroll? Or can you speak to that at all?
You know, I'd have to double check what our current payroll is for 1 month, but I think it's about 1 month.
Okay.
Ballpark.
And then my last question is around the 3.5 million that we transferred in out of Fund 40 to have a positive certification. Will the plan to pay that back be in the second interim, be part of the second interim numbers?
Yes, it will be coming.
You just haven't figured that part out yet?
No.
We had a few things
We used this
to
report
do.
to just figure out the 3.5 million.
Got it, okay. Yeah, you were just figuring, how much you needed to make it work. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
So-
you.
This is an action? Oh, go ahead.
Actually, go ahead and do the action. I just need to give some accolades. No. Madam Chair, okay, sorry. Brett McFadden, your fiscal advisor. Yes, Madam Chair, it is an action item. You do need to adopt this. And as Ms. Marsh stated, it will become your new updated budget for the next reporting period in time. So real quick, I know that time is a consideration, but some accolades are necessary here. So accolades to your CBO, your interim superintendent, staff, cabinet staff, and particularly the fiscal staff. Where they have come from when I arrived here in July to where we are now is remarkable. As I've stated last night at the Business Advisory Committee, that when I arrived here, my internal warning light was red in terms of just things that I was seeing and such, and now I don't have that. It's not, we have a ways to go still. We're not out of the woods. But my warning light is not on anymore. That the things are headed in the right direction. So I feel confident that at the end of this fiscal year, the business department and the business offices, your CBO and staff will have sufficient capacity in which they can then carry on forward on their own. And as you know, you've had 2 different FCMAT reports, Fiscal Crisis Management Assistant Teams reports over a period of 5 years, opine that certain functions needed to be brought in-house. And so they have been brought in-house. And I estimate right now we've probably implemented, of the last FCMAT report, we've probably implemented about 65% of the recommendations so far. And so that's pretty remarkable when we were coming just from July to now. Remember in August when we came to you, you had a negative fiscal certification. We've moved that from that point, as Dr. Harding mentioned, we made some moves to get that, but to go from negative to positive in that period of time is remarkable. So hats off to the hard work that staff are doing. So thank you.
Actually, I have one more question for you, Brett, before you sit down, because at the Budget Advisory Committee last night, you made some comments about reserves and reserve policies and your advice around that. Can you speak to that for the full board as well?
Certainly, I'd be happy to. So there's a number of questions that should be posed to the board in terms of your reserve level. Right now, this agency is operating at your minimum requirement of 3%. All school districts in the state of California have a minimum that they must, a minimum reserve for economic uncertainties that they must adhere to. It's based on the size of your district. So really, what I mentioned last night is the determination of your reserves is really not necessarily about a dollar amount, or it's not about a percentage. It's a value discussion that you're having as a board and as a community. And a mentor once taught me that, how do you determine what size of reserves you should have? And it comes down to 3 questions or 3 things. Number 1, time to react. And number 2, time to plan. And number 3, time to implement. Time to react, time to plan, time to implement. So if 3 months, it represents 3 to 4 weeks of payroll, 3% represents 3 or 4 weeks to payroll to handle something unforeseen, are you as a board, are you as a community, are you comfortable with having that? I would argue, based on my experience, smaller districts don't have the economies of scale that a San Francisco or an LA or Sequoia Union High School District has. So typically smaller districts, I would recommend a larger reserve, whether that be two months of operating revenues or 2 months of operating expenditures or 3 months. That's what you need to determine because they are the unforeseen things that happen. A reserve also needs to be in place for cash purposes. And so maintaining appropriate cash flows. You recall we came to you with a cash emergency that we had earlier this year, and maintaining appropriate cash flow so that each given month you know that you can meet your bills. Payroll, paying for the electricity, paying for gas, all of those things. So it's critically important to maintain an appropriate reserve. Now, there's a difference between maintaining an appropriate reserve to protect your core services and protect what goes on in the classroom versus hoarding. So there's a balance with that. So we're a people-intensive business, we're a service-intensive business. You spend today's dollars on today's kids. So that's the judgment, and so that's a discussion that needs to take place among you as a board, your community, and we began that discussion yesterday in the business and the budget advisory committee.
Great, too. And then I think another thing that this is the first time I'd seen it done that I'm really pleased to see is that the use of the assigned line item to basically plan ahead. And I know this is something that's come up with, like, basically if, we could use that for any kind of planned expenditure that's not like concrete and committed where you have a contract and you'd like accrue it, or necessarily project it under a line item, but like how you had here on slide 10, the assigned amount in first interim for now to basically reserve to offset the REU deficit, I guess, for the next year, if I understand correctly. I just want to commend you for that too, because I think that's how you can plan ahead for future compensation increases. Like if you use all your money now, you can't plan it, you don't have any left for tomorrow, right? It's like maxing out your credit card. And to that point too, I wondered, Brett, if you could speak a little bit to like what is, this special restrictions around reserves for economic uncertainty. It's not like a pot of money that you could just use freely, right? Like can you speak to those reserves? Because I've always thought of it as kind of like not so much money that you have per se, but it's almost more like a line of credit on a checking account.
Similar to that, yes, it's really meant to create an element of buffer to handle the unforeseen. And we work in a dynamic situation, in a dynamic agency, so things are happening all the time. So it's really meant to, in case something unforeseen, like you have a facility problem or you have suddenly a judgment against the district that you can then be able to handle that. You have the cash available in order to meet that emergent, immediate need.
Do I have a motion to approve this action?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Are we ready to call the vote? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Item 5D, approve of Measure M and Measure S Bond and Parcel Tax Citizens Oversight Committee 23-24 Annual Report.
Dr. Harding, President Hines, may it please the court. I am Kendra Holland, and I, with Mike Alifano, Zachary Bennington, Brianna LaFontaine, Lenny Lakos, Lisa Zanetti, are the Bond Oversight Committee. We're the Citizens Oversight Committee that I will get the exact language. I will, I promise, just one second. That ensures bond proceeds are expended only for the school facilities projects listed in the bond projects list. I think it's important to make the distinction that we are an oversight committee, not an advisory, not an approval. We simply look at the numbers that come in, make sure they're used in the appropriate places, give a nod, and move on. In accordance with the Brown Act, we meet about 4 times a year, and we are still doing that over Zoom, so it's a very convenient meeting. It's about 2 hours, 4 times a year. If you're looking over the documents that come, I can assure you it's about 15 hours of commitment a year, so that is my plug for if you know people who are interested in being on the bond committee. We have openings. I don't know if you know, but there's one of our committee members is going to be sitting over here. So there are openings, and we are looking to fill those positions. The application is on the Cabrillo site. At our November 2024 meeting, we were presented the annual performance and financial report. We spent a little time asking clarifying questions, felt that we received acceptable responses from the staff and auditor, and voted to accept the independent audit. I'd say that the highlights from that meeting are just that we're moving forward with our current construction projects, the construction at Fairlawn View and El Granada, and we're really excited and eager to see those to completion. Any questions? See, guys, very straightforward. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
And I see that this is an action. Is this an action to approve? Okay, so do we have a motion to approve their report?
So moved.
And do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any questions, comments? Let's call the vote.
Aye.
Thank you so much. The next item is 5E, courses for the Adult Education High School Diploma Program.
Board President Hines, member of the Board of Education, Interim Superintendent Dr. Harding, thank you so much for this opportunity to address you on this topic. I bring forward for your discussion tonight a list of all of our courses and course outlines that we are using in our adult education high school diploma program. This is a regular and ongoing activity that we'll be engaging in future years. And it is simply an accountability piece that is required by education code to make sure that our program is approved by a Board of Education. This became and has become more and more relevant and important over the last couple of years because of the increasing number of online schools that typically do charge money and oftentimes are not compliant with the requirements for a high school diploma, leaving some students out in the cold after paying money. Our program, of course, is entirely free for anyone to attend. And the course outline that you have hopefully online, because if you printed it, you probably murdered a forest and a half of trees, is all of the courses that we have available for students when they're completing our diploma. Our diploma only requires 145 credits as opposed to what is required at Half Moon Bay High School, and that is consistent with the rest of the schools in the consortium in San Mateo. All of us have high school diploma requirements ranging between 145 and 155 credits. And that is simply to meet the needs of the students in that we are trying to get them a high school diploma as quickly as possible. It is not A through G compliant, but it is sufficient for us, us on behalf of you, to award diplomas to students. And I would also just like to add on top of the student board reports of having 2 graduates, just as I was on my way over here, we found out we got another. So we're actually going to have 3 for this term. Very excited about that. So at this point, I would entertain entertain any questions that you have and just ask that, with your permission, and Dr. Harding, we would like to see this item come back in the January board meeting, and it would need your approval for us to be compliant. On consent.
And what is it we would be approving then?
Just proving that we're offering courses that are appropriate for an adult education high school diploma program.
Okay.
One of the requirements in Ed Code for those courses is that for adult ed programs that are offered within a unified school district, our courses may not be substantively different than any of the other high school courses. So our courses are neither longer than what would be offered at either Pilarcitos or Half Moon Bay High School. So they're not longer, they're not shorter, they're not harder, they're not easier. They're functionally the same.
Can I ask just a very basic question? I'm assuming all these courses are offered online?
Yeah, we use Edgenuity.
Edgenuity, right? Okay,
Yeah,
that's
just
what I
like
figured.
everyone else.
Okay.
Although,
Yeah.
because our program is entirely hybrid as opposed
Yeah.
to some of the other ones.
Or online, yeah.
Yeah. But they have to come in weekly and meet with a teacher.
Okay, so
And
similar to
because-
independent study in a
No,
way?
no, it's not.
It's
No,
not? Okay.
It's a hybrid program, for sure.
So hybrid meaning they have in-person instruction as well?
They have to come in and meet with their teacher once a week.
Okay, well, I guess that's more like Pilarcitos in a way, where they come in once a week and they could be taking all of their classes potentially online.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah. But we typically recommend to our students that they
Yeah.
only take one at a time.
yeah, that makes sense, okay. So all these classes are the Edgenuity, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then in Edgenuity, we actually pay for the additional 24-hour live teacher support function that's a part of it.
Okay.
Just because if we look at our usage with our program, a lot of times we find that our adult students are working on this at 1, 2, 3 in the morning.
Yeah. Okay, that's really great.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for everything. Really quick question.
Sure.
Your 3 graduates, do they have like a little ceremony? I'm just curious.
So
you do
what
for
we do
them?
with our adult students, because adults have different perspectives on what they're doing, they have the opportunity to choose to participate in a graduation ceremony in the spring. And last year we did it with Pilarcitos, and it was a blast. And we are
That's awesome.
planning on doing it again.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Next, we have item 5F, Cabrillo Unified School District Bond Program Update.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me this evening. I'm Roger Shahar, Senior Project Manager with Banner Construction Management. I'm here to provide the bond program construction update. Next slide, please. Here is an overview of our current projects. We show again the green line represents where we are today in terms of our projects: Farallon View, El Granada Phase 1, and we can also see Farallon Phase, or El Granada Phase 2 on the lower part of the screen, lower part of the slide. Things are moving right along and on schedule and budget. Next slide, please. First project, the name for this project is actually the Half Moon Bay High School drainage and hillside remediation, but somehow the sinkhole name keeps coming back. This project was recently completed. It was a very difficult schedule, and we were able to pull together a design quickly over the spring. Last winter, there was a slide at the high school, and we were able to pull together soils reports and the civil engineering team to come up with the design to fix the hillside. We went out to bid in August, awarded it, and were able to complete it, excuse me, before all the rains. So this was very successful project. Things went really well, and a huge sigh of relief when we did complete it. Just recently, about 2 weeks ago, we were 100% complete. Next slide, please. There's just a photo of the hillside. Not very exciting, but it was a difficult project, close to the neighbors. Very important that a contractor that delivered and did a great job, close to the neighbors, challenging environment just because of noise, and obviously working in the academic environment of having to come through campus on a daily basis. But things were done and completed safely. Next slide, please. There's a view of what the hillside looks like today, completed. There's all the below-grade drainage piping was redone. This area of the site handles basically all of the drainage on the southern half of the high school, from the baseball, basically from the upper campus all through the lower athletics area, and handles a lot of the surface water and drainage throughout that side of the campus. There's the view of it completed with erosion control measures in place, so that that hillside's has had some hydroseed spray just to stabilize it, so that'll come back with stable green grass once it does start raining and things start growing again. Next slide, please. There's another view of how close we were to the neighbors during the project and the finished product. That is what it looks like today. Next slide, please. The next project is our Farallon View Elementary School upgrade. We turned over Building A in early August, and we're currently working on Building B and the MU modernization. That's set to complete in late August, but we're turning it over. That's just 100% completion with closeout. We're turning it over in time for occupancy in early August of 25 for the school year to commence. We're making excellent progress with the construction over there. We're actually ahead of schedule and on budget, so things are moving along really well. Next slide, please. There's a view of Farallon View today. Building A is complete. Next slide, please. Here's another view from the parking lot, and you can see in the background Building B is underway. It's kind of hard to see from this angle, but they've done a lot of demo, and it's basically just structure that you can see in that photo on the left. Next slide, please. There's a view from Building B on the back side of the campus, from where the playground area is. It's a view from the back side. As you can see, the structure's fully exposed. Next slide, please. They are working on the framing on the inside of the building and are making very good progress. They had their first foundation poured today and are making, again, great progress. Next slide, please. El Granada Elementary School, we turned over the .5 complex, which was all the portables, to provide space for the teachers that moved out of the portables that were demolished. The play structure was turned over. Now we have the new Building C, which is in progress, and then we will have A, D, and K and M as part of Phase 2. But at this point, we're underway with Building C construction. Next slide, please. There's a view of the entire project. New building is in the center, and then we show the portables, the 6 portables to the right, and the new play area, and then of course there's the parking lot where there's some restriping and some modifications being done there to bring it up to today's standards. Next slide, please. There's a view of Building C foundations, not too exciting to look at, but just some perspective on them working in the rain. They've been trying to maintain schedule even with some of the wet conditions. But the contractor's done a good job of doing what they can with some of the weather challenges lately. Next slide, please. There's our foundations going down. That's what you see there with the wood is the edge of the slab, and also the rough-in plumbing being installed. They're in this photo, they were getting ready to test all the below-grade plumbing so that they can start backfilling. Next slide, please. There's a view of the foundations completed, or not foundation, but formwork for the foundations completed, and getting ready and they're also at this point in this photo, and as well as currently, are putting all the utilities below the slab on grade or the foundation, so that they can pour concrete at Building C. Next slide, please. There's a view of them prefabricating the walls for the building. So this contractor has a way of expediting the framing. So they prefabricate the walls on site, and then they stack them, and then once the foundation poured, they will then lift them into place. Next slide, please. And that is the update. Any questions?
Thank you, Roger.
Okay.
I had heard that you guys were testing the lighting at Fairlawn View with the mods. How did that work?
Yeah, so they were working with the lighting supplier and the electrical contractor, as well as the designer, to adjust the lighting, because the lighting has adjustability, and they've been able to lower the light levels into 10% of what the light's capacity is. So they've lowered it down to 10% in the areas where it's not a path to travel. And so actually, I have this written down because it's really detailed.
Well, you may not need all the details on it, but did you get some photos that maybe you could send to the board to see before and after?
Yeah, so yes, I certainly do. In the areas where there's a path to travel, the lighting was reduced to 20. So when the lights performed in their state when they're not active, they sit at 4% of the maximum capacity of the light, and then when people walk by, they illuminate to 10% to light it up some more as a motion sensor. And then in terms of that's the general area of lighting, so that when people do walk, if there is motion, the lights actually go from a 4% light level to 10%, and they brighten up a little bit more, but they've been reduced far more than what was seen originally.
And understanding that for the wildlife and livestock there, are they off after certain hours?
Yes, they will be programmed to turn off at 8:30. Yes, and they turn on when the light is desired, whenever it's programmed, it can turn off. Right now, the light it seems to get dark at anywhere from 5 to 5:15. It's really dark. So the plan was to program them to turn on then and turn off no later than 8:30. Yeah.
Thanks.
But it was the team at the Vanner team at Fairlawn spent quite a bit of time working with the lighting design team and the contractor to adjust the light levels, because there is a way to program it in such a way that can be reduced quite a bit.
I had a couple comments and then a question. One, to just say I had the opportunity to drive by Fair Lawn View today, and it's amazing. Like even just in the last month, which is probably when I was last there, like how much progress has been made. And now the sign's up there that has the school name and everything. The parking lot looks good. So to just have that building, if there's so much effort to try to get these two projects, Fair Lawn View and El Granada, off the ground, it was like so much work to prepare and plan, and now that to see the implementation, it's like the fruits of everyone's labor coming through, which is awesome. And that's like my second point too, is to just see how reassuring it is to see your work, Roger, and with your team at Vanner, like as a support team, like you said, like to basically take the pressure off Jennifer, because I know her predecessor was spending a lot of time on these minutia details, which takes people away from the big job that they need to be doing. So I'm really grateful to see like the program management excellence that we were having from you and your team at Vanner, to be able to I'm protective of Jennifer and her time and her expertise and the other stuff she needs to do. So to be able to have that, I think is really also very helpful for the CBO to be able to, from what I can see, and Jennifer, you can comment also, to be like having the oversight, but not the day-to-day, like checking and managing, that kind of stuff, which would just be a distraction from like the big job that she has and needs to do.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I said anything wrong, if you feel to chime in, but I just want to say, like, I feel like that's working really well. And just third, to just, again, take a step back, because it's so easy to just get caught in like the little projects, but like, to think about the facilities construction that's happened in this district over the last like 10, 15 years, starting with Cunha, probably about 15 years ago, I guess it was. And even thinking about like, just since my kids started, and a lot of your kids I know started, and sort of yours, having rebuilt Hatch, having built Pilarcitos, because it used to be a bunch of janky trailers, to put it bluntly and truthfully. And to honor the space, the learning space for those students, as well as the adult school, to have legitimately built an integrated pre-K and early learning center with the after-school program there on the Hatch campus as well, which facilitates also the transition for those students to elementary to kindergarten. And to have now Farallon View and El Granada well underway, as our other two largest elementary schools, and then preparing to, next phase, and that'll be my upcoming question, is the big boy up at the top of the hill, Half Moon Bay High School, which is of course our newest campus, and as the planning was done early on, of like kind of the rationale for the sequence, then that strategy was based on the need, and being the newest school, generally speaking, it had the less need, as anyone had seen Hatch before it was rebuilt, anyone that saw El Granada and Farallon View like a year ago would have realized like, okay, we gotta like hop to it and make this happen. Of course, we had the delays with the pandemic that put things on hold for a bit, and then of course the costs skyrocketed, which put pressure on the bond. But anyway, that brings us kind of to the next phase, and now that we kind of big picture, this might be more of a Jeff or Jennifer question. And so now that we have a new bond approved and we have a little bit more wiggle room, obviously a lot more wiggle room to be planning, although it's amazing how quickly 150 million, I sometimes see, I just want to say, other school districts, and I saw like a friend of mine is a board member at Linwood down in Southern California, and they're building like a building for $250 million. I'm like, oh my God, like that's a lot, that's like twice our whole bond. But so it's an expensive business to be building these buildings. It's not like building a shed in one's backyard. Anyway, Half Moon Bay High School, big campus, lot that, some obviously a lot of need, a lot of interest, a lot of opportunities. To just list the projects that have come up, again, partly because I know we've had a lot of leadership transitions. We've obviously talked about pools, that's in progress with our partners in terms of planning and feasibility for that. Previously, we had also talked about relocating our bus depot up there and charging stations up there as well. There's some talk about learning spaces. I know we've been expanding our CTE spaces for ag in particular. There's been interest in expanding for robotics as well, potentially up there. I'm understanding as well, there's been infrastructure needs around electrical in particular, because buildings in the 60s weren't designed for our wires and electrical needs today. We've talked about a central kitchen. We've talked about revamping the training room. There was some work done with Safe Routes to School with Carlene Foldenhauer and staff up there to just make sure that we have the best flow that's safe and efficient. And of course, there's the work to upgrade the fields. That's a lot. And so I just want to ask, and that's just the Half Moon Bay High School. There's obviously other projects that are in the works and could be kind of high level line items. I guess my question for you, Jeff and Jennifer, is what are the next steps in pulling together like an overall facilities master plan update to the one that we had a few years ago? And specifically with regards to Half Moon Bay High School, which is probably our site that will have the most activity potentially other than the district office site with housing. Kind of those two big areas as far as like kind of the next steps for those two as well. So probably I'll look to Jeff.
Sure, I can address that. Just tomorrow, I have a meeting with Mark Katroki and his architecture firm to talk about the high school. There's a whole programming process that we'll go through where architects will come and meet with staff and talk about program and talk about what facilities work well and which ones don't work well and what kind of programs do we have at the high school level that we need, specialty rooms, all those kinds of questions come out at programming. So that's the future phase. And I've been through the process quite a number of times before. We also tomorrow have a meeting with the EV bus charging group. So those two meetings are tomorrow. So we're jumping on it. It's it's a lengthy process, particularly when you're talking about high schools and the complexity of the instructional model and the number of specialty rooms that you need as compared to an elementary school where it's just, the instructional program is just not as complex. So that's the responsibility of the architect design team to come and meet with individual staff members to find out, what CTE programs are we running. I can get into all the details, but to find a firm that does this as a matter of course, that they've done it before, is really important.
Add, because I think it's really important. While I think the board had a really good handle on the facilities master plan and the ideation and the benefits of workforce housing, I do believe both of our unions have a ways to go in terms of trust and feeling comfortable with the actions. And I had the opportunity to meet with Mike O'Neill and a number of union members from CUTA this week. We spent 2 hours with Mike, who went through he's been on a union in Jefferson Union District. He's served as a city council member. He served as a school board member. And so he brought a perspective of explaining how you can get from ideation and all of the background work to a point where you actually have housing. And a big part of that we have missed in Cabrillo is the communication piece. Not with malice, not with any intention to exclude anyone, but that hasn't been our gift in terms of communication. And so as we go forward with a new facilities master plan in alignment with our new bond, it will be critical to have some type of, much like you have a budget advisory, I believe it would be value added to this district to have an advisory group that's made up of teachers and representatives from all of the sites to weigh in and be part of the communications. Because if it's simply an architect coming in from the outside, it looks like we're just writing another check for someone else to tell us what to do. I know that's not what Mark Quattrochi does. Okay, I understand that they do come in and ask good questions. But if we're not inclusive and intentional with having other people part of the conversation, then it gets talked about and it's not a conversation with. So I just offer that to the next board to take the time to assess what the best practices might be. And it's always express test cycle. You know, we did the rollout, and now it's time to weigh all of the bits and pieces and build trust again, because building trust throughout our community is essential.
So I just want to clarify too, with regards to the Half Moon Bay High School site, I think that makes a lot of sense too. And I just want to point out too, we have, I want to say a secret weapon with Brett, but also a lot of expertise and experience with Brett. And I can probably come up with different ways to go about it, but I'm not the expert. So I would also assume that there'll be some weighing in from Brett in terms of kind of the next steps, not only for like the site for Half Moon Bay High School, which is probably the most complex, but also with regards to like an overall facilities master plan. Now that we have a bunch of money, generally speaking, like previously, which I think is important to even know what is our budget for Half Moon Bay High School, you have to know how, generally speaking, do you want to plan to spend $153 million, 20 million for this, 50 million for this, 10 million, who knows what, sinkholes, like whatever, like the fields, what you want to reserve, field, whatever it is, right? Like I'm not making the complete list right now, but just as examples. So I think that's something that I would strongly encourage staff to also put together for the board is high level, you know, generally speaking, what do you want to look at now? And then involve the community as appropriate throughout that process. So I wouldn't prescribe how to do it, but because I know that we have the experience here to help guide that at a strategic planning level, in addition to the kind of the program management level.
And definitely the input from the campus is first and foremost, but also facilities, knowing what reoccurring problems they have to make sure any systems are dealt with that they may be spending a lot of time on. And obviously that is, when you have a campus-wide heating system, those type of things that we don't always hear about, address those issues at the same time as when buildings are being modernized, those type of things. That info is important. Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. So future events, Tuesday, December 17th. No, Tuesday, December 17th is when the new board members take their oath of office, right? Right here at 6:30. And Thursday, okay, so you're saying budget advisory isn't happening. Got it. Monday, December 23rd to Friday, January 3rd, winter recess. Monday, January 6th, teacher and staff workday, no school for students. At this time, we will move to closed session. I have no cards or comments on closed session. So we'll, usually someone has, if we go to closed session, someone has, if there's any comments, we have cards, but we haven't, if nobody's submitted something, I think we're good. So thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll, I'm looking at the time. I don't know if it could take us up to an hour. I'm going to suggest that we extend our time past 10 o'clock till 10:30, and if we're lucky, we'll be done before then. But do I have a motion to extend to 10:30 if necessary?
The advice of Dr. Harding, as you're most familiar with the content for the closed session, are you comfortable with 1 hour and 15 minutes for the entire closed session? Okay, thank you.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
We're good? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.